Welcome to Her Cringe Clinic. I'm Dr. Ju, and here we free our cringe to heal from our habit of hiding to live more authentically. We're going to talk about loneliness today, and it might be a topic that I return to on this podcast again, like friendship, because as someone who studied abroad since I was 11 years old, loneliness is kind of like my best friend. So if you have any questions about loneliness, I got you. It actually took me a really long time to accept that I ever felt lonely because I had pretended for so long to everyone in my life that I was doing fine. I hated that look in some people's eyes when I told them that my family was in Korea, that look when I shared I had nowhere to go for Thanksgiving. The looks were worse when I was little, but then it got better as I got older. But as I got older, the lonelier I felt. The thing is, you can choose to surround yourself with people to feel less lonely. That works. I've been there. Or you can jump into a relationship and then hop from one relationship to the next. That also works. Can't say I've not been there either. But another option is actually to befriend yourself so that you can have a best friend wherever you go. And that's the route that I recommend that we all take because what I've learned is that loneliness is not an issue of being alone. It's an issue of being able to stand your true self. And when I realized that I'm the one person that I cannot fucking get rid of throughout my whole life, the other options seemed less sustainable. Instead of fearing, hiding, judging, and lying to ourselves about who we are, we can choose to be a friend and a lover and a companion and a champion so that we can live in the process of growth and continue to be pleased at ourselves for growing day after day. That's a good life. When we feel the need to be saved by someone else's love and acceptance, do you know what happens? We end up building a wall, more mask, because we are putting in more work to attain this love and acceptance that we desperately need and want. So we end up hiding more of ourselves. We protect more of ourselves, fearing the fall, the potential rejection. We build this wall higher and higher, thinking we're getting closer to being completely loved. But the other person actually sees less and less of who we are truly underneath. The worst part about a relationship like this is that we will never know what we need from one another because we can't even use each other as mirrors in the walls that we've built so freaking high. We lose sight of who we are even to ourselves when we exist in love like this. We might as well be single and be in solitude to see something, anything, other than the walls in our faces that we've built so freaking high. When we choose not to face ourselves, we cut the very access to the hope that there is in this world that someone can actually love us for who we really are. And that's really fucking sad. What we need to know is that it is a fundamental mistake to believe that someone can make us feel accepted and loved before we accept and love ourselves first. There is a fine balance. We don't want to fall into this love born out of consumerism where we only want to receive and feel pleasure because the sacrifice, the pain, and the inevitable deaths of who we used to be for the greater good of the union, all of that is part of true love. But before any of that happens, we need to find that person to love first and commit for all of its positive and negative parts of love. But how are we supposed to find that person to love when we can't even present who we are into this world so that we can be recognizable to that person, to one another? So stop wasting your time swiping on your dating apps looking for that one person that you think might save you, make you feel loved forever, make you feel like you're living the life that you've always wanted to live. Because even if that person were to show up in your life right now, how are you going to recognize that person when you don't even know who you are? What needs to come first is you finding yourself, loving yourself, accepting yourself to the point that you can be authentic so that you can put yourself out there on the market as you. Also, only when you have accepted yourself can you reciprocate that unconditional love that you're asking for. How are you going to die for someone when you won't even die for yourself? Someone who doesn't love themselves doesn't know how to love. I don't want that person. They can't love me. They literally don't know how. They literally are not capable. Okay, we'll talk more about love in an upcoming episode, actually. Yeah. So stay tuned. But this episode, like I said, is about loneliness. So, in order to overcome loneliness, you need to befriend yourself so that you have a best friend wherever you go. And I'm not talking about Pori, I'm talking about myself. We need to befriend ourselves, not our pets. Because when you befriend yourself, self love is only natural. Who befriends someone without love? Love is ultimately the quiet choices that we make daily to support the person that you choose to love. Feelings in the moment of those choices are irrelevant when you are committed. Love can feel like you have the whole world in your hands, and love can feel like nothing or even annoying at times. But what lasting love is staying through all those feelings because you still choose to love this person. And regardless of how it feels to love ourselves, we actually love ourselves when we choose us. That's why I went on a tangent about love. I have my reasons. A patient that I was seeing who was struggling with severe depression shared with me once, I am so tired of feeling nothing and null all the time. And it kind of broke me inside because I felt for him so much. We all crave to feel something, anything over nothing. We might choose meaningless dates that you know is going nowhere over the loneliness and alone time on a Saturday night because at least it makes the weekend bearable to be outside with somebody else instead of at home with ourselves feeling what feels like nothing, like emptiness. We won't admit it, but we will skydive for fun but unconsciously avoid that feeling of nothingness at all costs. Life is inevitably depressing because it is null sometimes. We feel nothing sometimes. It's bound to happen. Life isn't a highlight reel. We get wasted just so that we can feel something. We work out and go for a run even though it's really hard because we want to feel something. We want to love and we want to be loved just to feel something. We sometimes pick fights with our loved ones just to feel something because sometimes it's just to feel anything over nothing. We often hope that love will make us feel something forever, but it doesn't. Life will always have moments when we feel nothing. Some people choose to face the nothing and in return face themselves. Some people choose to find other coping skills that work for them, like exercise or work or constantly surrounding themselves with people. Healthy coping skills can lead you to a life of dedication, maintenance, and peace, and I respect that. I just personally like to romanticize walking into the nothingness and discovering more of myself in pain and isolation. Between feeling happy, sad, angry, disgust, or whatever, the lack of feeling anything is the hardest to sit with for a long time. A lot of people who commit suicide, it's not because they are so actively sad all the time, but it's because they are so hopeless that they will ever feel anything again. People don't commit suicide in the moments of sadness, but it's when they haven't felt anything in a long enough time and they've had enough of feeling nothing that they just want it to end. If you've struggled with thoughts of suicide, please seek professional help. Take it 1 hour at a time and wait it out. You got this. We live in a world nowadays where numbing our brains and emotions are normalized because of how much screen time everyone has. And we talk about dopamine addiction all the time on Instagram, and that's our natural tendency to chase stimulation, to move away from stillness, from nothingness. People instead get dependent on going out, on substances, or even watching TV all the time because it lets us feel something. Anything in that moment immediately soothes us when we really feel nothing, and we can't stand that. So we replace that with these easily accessible behaviors. We chase anything, even sadness or chaos, because that causes us to feel something over nothing. And a lot of times, chaos can feel better than feeling nothing at all. If you grew up in an abusive home, it's possible that even abuse feels better than feeling nothing at all. Sitting with feeling nothing is really difficult to do. But we need to walk through it to come out on the other side, having learned to be at peace with it, having turned it into self-discovery and rest, having gained a best friend within ourselves. So when we stop replacing sitting with ourselves with all these other things that we choose to do, like sitting with a friend who's just a placeholder person that you secretly think is a mediocre human being, or going on meaningless dates, or staying in a toxic relationship, that's an act of self-love. Just sitting with yourself and not replacing it with something or someone else is all you need to do to know that you truly deeply love yourself. That's the hardest thing to do. Sometimes self-love feels good just like any other love. Other times, it doesn't feel good just like any other love. But when we choose ourselves, no matter how it feels, by not replacing spending time with ourselves with anything else, that's the definition of long-lasting love with ourselves. Like I said, I perpetually felt lonely because of my life circumstances. I would talk to my therapist about wanting an emergency contact because I've never had one since I was 11. I never had family who lived in the same country I was residing in. I felt like if I were in the ER in the middle of the night, no one was responsible to drop everything and show up for me. I always wondered how different I would be if I lived closer to home, because I could tell from just the way that I drive around LA versus Seoul that I'm a different person. I drive different, knowing that I have someone to call if I get myself into an accident. Being alone made me more careful, more afraid to live, more quiet. It forced me to be smaller, invisible, just so that I can blend in better, survive, earn love and care from others, and hope to make it back home one day to my family in one piece. Recently, though, I befriended myself and my loneliness in a way that I never had before. And when I did that, not only was I more myself and less afraid to live and less afraid to die, knowing all I can do today is to live, but also because dying seems way better with your best friend by your side. It's funny how life sends you on journeys to overcome things, and then it brings you back once you've learned your lesson. I befriended my loneliness when I lived the most isolated year of my life. And I want to talk about the importance of isolating yourself and having forced solitude if you want a fast track to self-discovery. A lot of religions also emphasize this forced solitude for growth in the idea of a pilgrimage. For example, in Islam, you have your trip to the Mecca. There's El Camino for Christians, Kumela for Hindus, Bodh Gaya for Buddhists. And I'm not talking about tourism, before you book that ticket? Because I'm talking about a pilgrimage, a journey of solitude through suffering to find your direction. The struggle in solitude is a necessary step before stepping into yourself and figuring out what you were meant to do in this lifetime. Jung also said that solitude is a gateway to knowing yourself and becoming free from societal pressures of who you should be and finding out who you really are and the life that you want to live for yourself. Instead of wondering what your purpose may be and looking to others for ideas, solitude will give you an inner compass to guide your life in the direction that you need it to go. For example, I always thought that I would stay in the US because I thought that was the definition of the successful outcome of my investments. I spent decades studying in the US. I've seen my siblings and my friends one by one move back home to Korea, but I chose to stay in the US year after year. And unconsciously, it became my goal to stay in the US because I wanted to prove to myself and to others that I could establish this life that I had once envisioned. I felt like I had stayed too long, that I had no choice but to prove to myself and others why I stayed this long. But what I realized in solitude was that yes, unless I die abruptly, I can probably successfully one day prove to myself that I can establish this life that I envisioned. But when I do that, was I going to be happy? Why would I choose to prove something to myself instead of living my life today? If I knew that I would die tomorrow, how would I be living today? Isolation will put you through all sorts of existential crises and make you reconsider your priorities in life. So my isolation gifted me the discernment to commit to moving back home. And I love that I'm closer to my family and that I can see them whenever I want to. But at the same time, I protect my alone time because I no longer feel lonely the same way that I used to. If I'd come back 10 years ago, I would have been clinging to my mom. But now I know that I need my alone time to continue to discover more of myself and to build my life that I want to live. If you are already living alone, I respect you immediately. I honor you. I think you are doing a very difficult, brave thing that many people don't give you credit for. I'm not shitting on people who have roommates or people who have pets or people who fill their schedules from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. outside the house. But if you are someone who lives alone, no pets, no roommates, no TV on in the background constantly, and you can stand your own thoughts and you can sit at home alone for hours, you already crack the code to peace in life. And cracking that code is not easy. That shit changes you. You essentially learn to self-regulate your emotions when that scary nothingness comes up and you are fearless in facing whatever emotion that might come up from within. Because shit will come up when you are isolated and in solitude. I've sobbed out loud in my apartment alone. I've replayed and had imaginary conversations with my dead grandmother, with my parents, with all my exes, with my future husband, with God. Shit will come up. I am a pretty active person, so when life is easy and I have free time, I'll do something to entertain myself. But when I am isolated and living alone, I will stay at home all day long because life is much, much harder alone when you are sitting with that nothingness before it turns to your best friend. You are not existing in comfort and happiness where you are like, oh, let me go out for a walk because it's a nice day. Going out for a walk becomes survival, not to fall into a deeper depression, a desperate hope for some fucking vitamin D. Feeding yourself is not always hard, but sometimes very fucking difficult. And feeding yourself healthy food, oh my God, that's a good day. And through all the ways that you are forced to fight the emptiness of living alone, you get to spend time with yourself. Befriend that loneliness. Just like when you live with a partner or a roommate and you learn their rhythm in life and to coexist in peace, that's also what happens with yourself when you live alone. You learn to exist in your own peace and learn to take care of yourself out of love and because you know your needs. And when you truly befriend yourself and learn to sit with yourself and no one else, no distractions of TV, no taking care of a pet with all your free time, no roommates to work your schedule around, you learn the worth of your own frequency. You will no longer waste time hanging out with friends you don't vibe with. You will no longer need superficial relationships in your life because you got a better one with yourself at home. I promise you, when you befriend yourself, the rotten relationships and mediocre friends will be purged out of your life. You learn to have the discernment to know which people are good for you and which people are not. And then you have the courage to commit and follow through with your decisions to be around or not to be around certain people because you are backed up by your best friend within yourself. You no longer need your going out friends as insurance to hit up on a day you just want to fuck it and go out and grab a drink to escape your reality. You start to find out what your frequency is without someone messing with it, without you trying to match your frequency with someone else's frequency. You learn to align with yourself, hear the voice of not just your thoughts but your soul. And when you are aligned in that way, it teaches you discernment in life, not just with people, but with your own priorities and values. Not just in a logical way, but in a way that's instinctive and visceral. How do I want to live? How do I want to move in this universe? What other frequencies do I want to be around? In what environments or energy do I want to exist in? Your body will start to know when you want to walk out of a room or make yourself more comfortable in that room. Your body will know if you want to keep walking on this path of life that you are on, even if you can't see ahead, or if it feels like a dead end, even if you see the ladder that's going to bring you to somewhere that you've always envisioned you would be. All this new knowledge from within and not from the external world will be your new compass for directing your own life. For women especially, I read one of those behavioral study results that said women sleep worse with someone in bed with them, while men sleep better with somebody else in bed. And the study made sense of its findings from this idea that women are natural caregivers and subconsciously tend to others while they sleep. Maybe it comes from the maternal instinct to take care of a sleeping baby. So generally, women get better sleep when they sleep alone. But most women don't want to sleep alone. Society talks about waking up alone being this horrible thing. So this study is an example that women, knowingly or not, tend to their surroundings. It is almost impossible not to align your frequency with somebody else's in the room. You need so much practice to vibrate at your own frequency. Spend time alone, because that's the only way you can practice this and recognize who you are, how you vibrate, what energy you send out into this world without someone else's presence messing with your own frequency. Once you spend enough time in solitude and your priorities become clear, a few things will stay and a lot of things will be purged out of your life. And this might feel like a loss, but it is not. It is alignment. It is discernment. It is a process that's needed. I'm not saying it's an easy process. It's hard. But it's like working out and training. Once you've obtained it, you have to maintain it for the rest of your life. If you stop, you immediately start losing your muscles. You immediately start falling back into existing on somebody else's frequency. And it's a matter of time before you lose yourself again. This is a lifelong journey. Training by spending time alone is going to make your own frequency stronger and more noticeable and easier to maintain inconsistently. Do not vibrate with society and be a sheep. Find your frequency because you have your own, and your frequency will attract the right people who vibrate with you. Quieten your mind from the chaos of this world, the society, and the people in it. It will always throw shit at you all the time. And you learn to throw shit at yourself too by judging yourself, rejecting yourself, fearing abandonment, becoming jealous, wishing you were somebody else. This is out of our control. It just happens to everybody. But what is in our control is unlearning this behavior and holding back the automatic movements of throwing shit at yourself by developing muscles to catch yourself and using those muscles every day to consciously stop throwing shit, but to love and encourage yourself to continue to clean out the shit and be more authentically you. That's what we're doing when we spend time alone. Sometimes it might even feel like you're going against what's natural, but the process is rewarding and worth it in the end because there will come a time when you start to feel like you are living again, loving yourself, and walking on your own fucking path. Choose to befriend yourself, support her unconditionally, and be more authentic. Who were you before life happened? Before you stopped being able to recognize yourself covered in all the shit that the world and you threw at yourself? Solitude will bring you back to your core. And when you get a glimpse of it, dig deeper, hold on to it, protect it, maintain it. So that brings us to homework for this week. The journal prompt is to think about and to write about what causes chaos in your life. If you're really honest with yourself, you can choose to walk away from it. In other words, what is your go-to placeholder that you choose instead of feeling nothing? It can be your partner. It can be going out. It can be your job, an addiction, drama with friends, relationship with family members that you frankly can do without. What are you putting into your life that you don't need as placeholders to avoid nothingness? It will be hard, but really be honest and think about that. And don't worry, the action plan homework is not to cut that person out in your life immediately right in this moment, but the action plan homework for this week is to meditate on your frequency. I want you to sit with yourself alone and imagine the energy and the frequency that you are creating around you. What color is it? What movement does it hold? Is it fast? Is it slow? Is it calm? What kind of texture does it have? If it's moving in a pattern, in what pattern is it moving? Is it swirling? Is it going clockwise or counterclockwise? Sit with yourself and stay tuned to your frequency, visualize it, and befriend it. Ooh, if you're new to meditation, there's nothing. Meditation is really just the process of existing in nothingness, but your thoughts will come up and it will make it really hard. So what you do is you gently, without judging yourself, guide your attention to your breath instead of your thoughts. You practice that over and over again. You can start with 2 minutes at first and then increase the amount of time you're able to sit with yourself. But sit with yourself, stay tuned to your frequency, visualize it, and befriend it. If you get carried away in your thoughts, gently come back to your breath. Meditate alone first, and then do it again outside when there's people around you that aren't actively engaging with you, like at a park, for example, and notice the difference in how you visualize your frequency. Notice how your frequency changes in private versus in public when you are indoor versus outdoor. Maybe it is the same, then notice that too. Reflect on it, get to know yourself and your frequency. Let me know in the comments what your placeholder is and what color your frequency is. They say that an aura of a healer is yellow, and I always see yellow. Anyway, thank you everyone again for listening. We will end with my 5th love letter, which I wrote to my loneliness as I befriended her. Dear my loneliness, I don't blame you for making me miss my ex or my family or my friends or for making me want to be elsewhere tonight. The sudden urge to run away, not to a vacation, but away from me, The one companion I've never had the chance to leave. The one presence I've carried through every fucking breath of my life. I wish we'd never met, but why does it feel like when you showed up in my life, you did it with care? You've always chased the comfort of being surrounded by people who love me. But what is the feeling that rises when I finally choose to be around you instead? If I could, I would put words to it for you right now. Maybe that's why I'm writing this letter. There are moments, a spoonful of ice cream on my walk home alone, a breeze through my bedroom window that sneaks joy into the strands of my hair, my budding basil plant in my small kitchen shining with an aura in the morning sun. And if these moments collected together can be evidence that I love my own company, do you think the ache that I feel beside you on a sleepless night could also count? Because I know that love doesn't always feel good. Sometimes it's staying through the pain that speaks louder. So maybe all of me, even you, can be my proof of love. So you're welcome to visit, I guess. And I'll stay with you. Love, Sahyun. Thank you, everyone. See you next week.